The champagne glass slipped from my fingers. Crystal shattered against marble as I watched Baek Chunhwa's perfectly manicured hands slide possessively around my husband's arm. Her crimson lips curved into a victory smile as she announced to Seoul's glittering elite, Tae-hyuk and I have decided to give our relationship another chance. My husband, Kang-hyuk, the man whose bite marks still burned beneath my collar, didn't even glance my way. His handsome face remained carved from ice as cameras flashed, capturing what would be tomorrow's headline. Siwoo? Are you all right? Dalnim gripped my elbow, steadying me. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The gallery walls seemed to close in as society's most powerful alphas congratulated Tae-hyuk on his reconciliation. Just 12 hours ago, those same hands now politely shaking others had pinned my wrists above my head, his mouth hot against my throat as he'd growled that I belonged to him alone. This morning feels like a lifetime ago. I'd woken tangled in silk sheets, Tae-hyuk's penthouse bedroom bathed in Seoul's golden sunrise. His arm was heavy across my waist, possessive even in sleep. I tried to slip away. Today's gallery opening was crucial, but his eyes had snapped open, dark and hungry. Where do you think you're going, my Omega? Tae-hyuk, I have the exhibition. His lips had crashed against mine, swallowing my protests. Strong hands pulled me back against his bare chest, fingers tracing the curve of my hip. You're not leaving this bed until I've had my fill of you. Heat had flooded through me despite my schedule. 3 months of secret marriage hadn't dimmed the intensity between us. If anything, the forbidden nature of our bond made every touch more desperate, more consuming. Someone will notice if I'm late, I'd whispered, even as my body arched into his touch. Let them wonder. His mouth had found that sensitive spot behind my ear, making me gasp. You're mine, Siwoo. Mine to touch, mine to taste, mine to... He'd claimed me then, thoroughly and possessively, his body moving against mine with practiced expertise. I'd surrendered completely, fingers clutching silk as pleasure built and crested, leaving me trembling and marked. Afterward, examining the fresh love bites in his bathroom mirror, I'd felt the first flutter of unease. These are too visible. Everyone will see. Tae-hyuk had appeared behind me, eyes dark with satisfaction. Good. Let them see that you belong to someone. But we agreed to keep this secret until... I know what we agreed. His voice had turned cold, the warmth evaporating. Cover them. I can't have complications at tonight's board meeting. The dismissal had stung, but I'd applied layers of concealer, transforming the evidence of our passion into invisible secrets. Now, standing in my gallery with my heart breaking, I understood. I was the complication. The secret he'd keep hidden while parading his suitable match before Seoul's elite. Excuse me, I'd mumbled to Dalnim, fleeing to my office. My hands shook as I locked the door. The concealer had worn thin through the evening stress. Dark marks peeked above my collar like accusations. I'd been so careful, so stupid, believing that our private world meant something more than convenient passion. The opening had been perfect before their arrival. Important collectors admired the contemporary pieces I'd curated, praising my eye for emerging artists. I'd felt proud, accomplished, until Tae-hyuk walked in. He'd looked devastatingly handsome in his tailored suit, commanding attention effortlessly. Our eyes had met across the gallery for one electric moment. Then his expression had shuttered completely, transforming into the cold Seo everyone feared. Interesting collection, he'd said when introduced, shaking my hand like a stranger. His touch had burned, though perhaps too avant-garde for traditional tastes. The casual dismissal of my work had hurt worse than his public rejection. I'd orchestrated this exhibition for months, and he'd critiqued it like we'd never discussed my passion for modern art during pillow talk. Then Chunhwa had arrived, gliding to his side like she belonged there. Beautiful, connected, alpha-approved. Everything I wasn't. A knock on my office door startled me. Siwoo? The guests are asking for you. I wiped my eyes, straightening my spine. Professional. I could be professional. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced smiles and empty conversation. Tae-hyuk and Chunhwa left early, his hand at the small of her back, the same place he'd touched me that morning. When I finally returned to the penthouse near midnight, exhaustion weighted my bones. Our home felt different now, contaminated by today's betrayal. I walked to our bedroom, looking at the bed where he'd made love to me hours ago. The wedding ring felt heavy on my finger. We'd exchanged them in secret 3 months ago, a simple courthouse ceremony with no witnesses. He'd promised it was temporary, just until he'd secured his position against the board's politics. How much longer would I remain his secret? I slipped the ring off, setting it carefully on the nightstand. The pale band of skin beneath seemed to glow in the lamplight, proof of what I'd been hiding. When Taehyuk arrived an hour later, I was sitting in the living room, still dressed. Siwoo. His voice was rough. Let me explain. There's nothing to explain. I saw everything quite clearly. He moved toward me, but I stood, maintaining distance. His eyes found the ringless finger, and his expression cracked. Don't. The single word held desperate command. Don't do this. You already did. The orchids arrived first, a grotesque arrangement of rare white blooms that cost more than my monthly salary. Then came the vintage wine, the designer watch, the invitation to a private art auction in Gangnam. All from Jin Myung-suk. He's persistent, I'll give him that, Dal Nim muttered, eyeing the latest delivery with suspicion. That's the 5th gift this week. I pressed my fingers to my temples, fighting a headache. 2 weeks had passed since I'd removed my wedding ring. Taehyuk had taken it from the nightstand the next morning without a word, and we'd fallen into an excruciating routine, sharing a bed in cold silence, our bodies carefully not touching, the passion between us frozen. Then Jin Myung-suk had walked into my gallery. He was handsome in a dangerous way, sharp features, calculating eyes, and Alpha's overwhelming presence that made my Omega instincts recoil. He'd spent an hour examining every piece, asking intelligent questions, and his interest had felt predatory even then. Mr. Kong. His deep voice made me turn. Myung-suk stood in the gallery entrance, immaculate in a charcoal suit. I hope you received my gifts. They're too generous, Mr. Jin. I can't possibly accept. Nonsense. He moved closer, and his pheromones hit me like a wave, heavy, cloying, deliberate. My body tensed involuntarily. I'm hosting a private dinner tomorrow evening. A select group of collectors and artists. Your presence would elevate the entire event. I'm not sure. I'm commissioning a major installation for my company's new headquarters. 20 million won budget. I'd like to discuss it with you personally. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Just dinner, Mr. Kong. Surely you can spare one evening? The amount made my breath catch. That kind of commission could establish my gallery as a serious player in Seoul's art scene. But everything about this felt wrong. I'll consider it. Wonderful. He handed me a black card with gold embossing. 8 o'clock. I'll send a car. After he left, Dal Nim grabbed my arm. Siwoo, that man wants more than your professional expertise. It's just business. Your neck is covered in someone else's marks every morning, and you think he cares about business? I flushed, instinctively touching my collar. Taehyuk had started marking me again, not with tenderness, but with angry possession. Last night, he'd cornered me in our closet, his mouth brutal against my throat as his hands had worked my body with practiced cruelty. Thinking of leaving me, he'd growled, fingers sliding beneath my clothes. Is that what this is about? You left me first, I'd gasped, even as pleasure sparked through my resistance. He'd taken me right there against the wall, fully clothed, desperate and furious. Our coupling had been violent and satisfying, leaving us both trembling. But afterward, the coldness returned like winter frost. The restaurant Myung-suk chose was exclusive, private rooms, Michelin stars, the kind of place where Seoul's elite conducted their secret business. I dressed carefully, professional but not inviting, my collar high to hide Taehyuk's latest marks. You look exquisite, Myung-suk said, pouring expensive wine. That Omega glow is quite captivating. I shifted uncomfortably. About the commission. Later. First, let's enjoy the meal. His eyes traveled over me possessively. Tell me, may I call you Siwoo? Why does someone of your talent work in such a small gallery? The conversation felt like a chess game where I didn't know the rules. Between courses, he moved closer, his knee brushing mine under the table. His pheromones intensified, making my head swim. You deserve better, he murmured. Someone who appreciates you properly. Who isn't ashamed to be seen with you? My heart stopped. I don't know what you mean. Don't you? His hand covered mine. I've done my research, Seawolf. You're unbonded, unattached, yet you smell like sex and secrets. Someone's keeping you hidden, and that's a crime. I tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. Mr. Jean, let me show you what it's like to be worshipped publicly. He leaned closer, his intentions unmistakable. I could give you everything. Gallery exhibitions, social status, my mark for the world to see. The door slammed open. Taehyuk stood there, fury radiating from every line of his body. His alpha presence flooded the room, so overwhelming that even Ma Young-suk flinched. Get your hands off him. Ma Young-suk's expression shifted to cruel amusement. Yoon Taehyuk, I wondered when you'd appear. Tell me, why does Seoul's most eligible alpha care so much about some random omega? Taehyuk moved with deadly grace, yanking me away from Ma Young-suk and positioning himself between us. The possessiveness in his stance was unmistakable. Seawolf, we're leaving. You can't just. Now. Ma Young-suk laughed. So it's true. The cold Seo has a secret plaything. Does your board know you're slumming with? Taehyuk's fist connected with Ma Young-suk's jaw before I could blink. The sound echoed obscenely in the private room. Speak about my husband again. Taehyuk's voice was lethal, and I'll destroy everything you've built. The word, husband, hung in the air like a detonation. Taehyuk dragged me to a hotel 3 blocks away, booking a suite with barely controlled violence. The moment the door closed, he had me pressed against it, his mouth claiming mine with bruising intensity. Mine, he growled between kisses, tearing at my clothes. You're mine, Seawolf. Mine to touch, mine to keep, mine to... Then act like it. I shoved him hard. Stop hiding me like I'm shameful. You think I want to hide you? His hands gripped my face, forcing me to meet his wild eyes. You think I enjoy watching other alphas circle you like prey? Every second you're not in my arms, I'm losing my mind. Then why? Because the moment I claim you publicly, they'll tear you apart. My board, my family, every enemy I've made, they'll use you to destroy me. His mouth found mine again, swallowing my protest. We fell onto the bed in a tangle of desperation, clothes discarded frantically. Taehyuk's hands mapped every inch of my body like he was memorizing it, his lips following the same paths. I can't lose you, he whispered against my skin. I won't. The pregnancy test clattered against the bathroom sink, 2 pink lines screaming the truth I wasn't ready to face. Pregnant. My hands trembled as I stared at my reflection. For tests, all positive. For chances for reality to be different, all confirming the same impossible fact. I was carrying Taehyuk's child. Our child. The thought should have filled me with joy. Instead, terror wrapped around my throat like a noose. 3 days ago, I'd stood outside Taehyuk's office, bringing him lunch, a pathetic attempt at normalcy. His door had been slightly ajar, his voice carrying clearly. Gentlemen, let me be explicitly clear. Taehyuk's tone had been ice. I have no plans for children. An heir would only complicate succession, create vulnerabilities my competitors could exploit. My focus remains solely on expanding Yoon Industries' market dominance. The board members had murmured approval. I'd stood frozen in the hallway, the lunch container growing heavy in my hands. What about marriage? Someone had asked. The shareholders expect. I'll handle expectations. But children? That's non-negotiable. I'd left before hearing more, disposing of the lunch in the building's trash. That night, when Taehyuk had reached for me in bed, I'd feigned sleep. His hands had eventually retreated, and we'd spent another night on opposite sides of an invisible divide. Now, staring at the positive tests, I understood the full weight of my situation. I was carrying a child my husband had declared he never wanted. See, you look terrible. Dal Nim caught me as I stumbled during the gallery's morning setup. What's wrong? Nothing. Just tired. I pulled away, focusing on straightening a painting that didn't need straightening. You've been just tired, for 2 weeks. You barely eat, you're pale, and yesterday I found you crying in the storage room. Her voice softened. Talk to me. Before I could respond, nausea hit like a tsunami. I barely made it to the bathroom before losing what little breakfast I'd managed. Dal Nim held my hair back, realization dawning across her face. Oh, Seawolf. Don't, I whispered, wiping my mouth. Please don't say it. Does he know? I shook my head, fresh tears streaming. He can't know. You heard what he said about children? I heard what he said to a board full of vipers. That doesn't mean. It means exactly what it sounds like. My voice cracked. I'm already his shameful secret. What happens when I'm his shameful secret carrying his unwanted child? Dal Nim pulled me into her arms as I finally broke down, sobbing against her shoulder. The weight of everything, the hidden marriage, the public rejections, the impossible pregnancy, crushed me. What are you going to do? She asked quietly. I don't know. I don't know. The decision was made for me that afternoon. Baek Chunhwa walked into my gallery like she owned it, designer heels clicking against the floor. Her smile was poisonous. Mr. Kang, we need to talk. She dropped a manila envelope on my desk. Photographs spilled out, me entering Taehyuk's penthouse, leaving in his clothes, kissing him in the parking garage we'd thought was private. Impressive work by my investigator, she said, examining her manicured nails. Seoul's most eligible bachelor, secretly married to a nobody Omega. The scandal would be devastating. My blood turned to ice. What do you want? You gone. Her eyes were merciless. Disappear from Seoul, from Taehyuk's life, from this entire world. Do that, and these photos never see daylight. And if I refuse? Then I release them everywhere. The business partners who'll pull their contracts when they learn he's been lying. The board members who'll vote him out for moral turpitude. The media who'll destroy both your reputations. She leaned closer. But mostly I'll ruin you. Every gallery in Korea will blacklist you. Your career, your credibility, your entire life obliterated. Taehyuk won't let you. Taehyuk will choose his company over you. He always does. Her smile widened. You already know that, don't you? That's why you're his dirty little secret instead of his publicly acknowledged husband. She left the photos scattered on my desk like evidence of my own stupidity. That night I told Dal Nim everything. The secret marriage, the pregnancy, Chunhwa's threats. You can't just leave, Dal Nim insisted. He deserves to know about the baby. He doesn't want children. He said so himself. He also said you're his husband. That he'd destroy anyone who touched you. She gripped my shoulders. Maybe he's protecting you the only way he knows how. Or maybe I'm finally seeing the truth. I touched my still flat stomach. This baby deserves more than a father who sees them as a complication. More than a life hidden in shadows. Siwoo, help me or don't. But I'm leaving. Taehyuk was in Busan for a 3-day conference. 3 days to disappear. I packed slowly, each item a memory. The silk robe he'd bought me. The art books we'd read together in bed. The coffee mug he'd kissed me over 1,000 mornings. My hand rested on my stomach. I'm sorry, I whispered to the tiny life inside me. I'm sorry your father won't know you. But I promise I'll love you enough for both of us. The letter took an hour to write. I'm setting you free to live the life you need. No more complications, no more secrets to keep. Thank you for the beautiful memories, even if they weren't enough. Don't look for me. Siwoo. I left my wedding ring on top of the letter. Dal Nim drove me to the ferry terminal before dawn. Jeju Island, I said, boarding with a single suitcase. Far enough to start over. As Seoul's skyline disappeared behind me, I touched my stomach again. Just us now, I whispered. Just us. The morning sun rose over the ocean, painting everything gold. Somewhere behind me, Taehyuk would wake to an empty bed and a goodbye letter. But ahead of me was Jeju. And freedom. And a chance to build a life where my child wouldn't be anyone's secret. I closed my eyes against the tears, feeling the ferry carry me toward an uncertain future. The cottage door splintered open. I dropped the paintbrush I'd been holding, my 6-month pregnant belly bumping the easel as I spun around. My heart stopped. Taehyuk stood in the doorway, chest heaving like he'd run the entire length of Jeju Island. His eyes, wild, desperate, furious, locked onto mine, then dropped to my swollen stomach. The world seemed to stop rotating. Siwoo. My name came out broken, barely a whisper. He took one step forward, then another, moving like a man in a dream. Or a nightmare. How did you? My voice failed as his knees hit the floor in front of me. His hands trembled as they reached toward my belly, stopping just short of touching. May I? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. I nodded. The moment his palms made contact, feeling the swell of our child between us, Taehyuk shattered. A sound tore from his throat, anguish and rage and desperate love all tangled together. Tears streamed down his face as he pressed his forehead against my stomach. How far along? 6 months. 6 months. His voice cracked. You've been carrying my child for 6 months, and I didn't know. I didn't. He looked up at me, devastation written across every feature. But why didn't you tell me? The anger I'd been suppressing for 3 months erupted. Because you made it perfectly clear children were non-negotiable complications. He flinched like I'd struck him. You heard that conversation. Every word. About how an heir would create vulnerabilities, how you had no plans for children, how you'd handle the board's expectations without. My voice broke. What was I supposed to do? Trap you with a baby you explicitly said you didn't want? Is that what you think? Taehyuk stood, and I'd never seen him look so wrecked. That I didn't want this? Want you? Want a family? You hid me like I was shameful. Paraded Chunhwa around while Chunhwa threatened you. It wasn't a question. I froze. How did you? Because I know her. Because 3 weeks after you disappeared, I received an anonymous package containing photos of us together and a note saying she'd kept you safe by making you leave. His hands clenched into fists. It took me 2 weeks to break her, to get her to confess what she'd done. What she'd threatened you with. Taehyuk. My father's will. He cut me off, voice raw. Did you know about the clause? To maintain control of Yoon Industries, I had to marry someone the board approved within 2 years of his death, or everything would go to my uncle. A man who'd run the company into the ground within months. I shook my head, sinking onto the couch. The baby kicked and I pressed a hand to the movement. I couldn't tell you. The will was sealed, the lawyers bound by confidentiality agreements. If anyone discovered I'd married you, an unsuitable Omega with no family connections, the board could invoke the clause immediately. He sat beside me, careful not to touch. So I hid you. Kept you secret while I worked to change the company bylaws, to restructure everything so the board couldn't touch us. The conversation I overheard was me lying to vipers who would have used any weakness against me, including our child. His voice dropped. Do you know what they'd do if they discovered you were pregnant? They'd claim I'd been compromised, that I was unfit to lead. They'd invoke morality clauses, drag you through the media, paint you as a seducer who trapped me. His eyes met mine, haunted. I was protecting you the only way I knew how. By pushing me away? By keeping you safe until I could claim you properly. Without consequences. Without them being able to hurt you. He pulled out his phone, showing me news articles. 3 weeks ago, I went nuclear. Restructured the entire company, bought out hostile board members, invoked emergency bylaws. I risked everything. The headline screamed, Yoon Seo restructures empire and business titan announces secret marriage. My hands shook as I scrolled through articles showing Taehyuk at press conferences, declaring his marriage to the love of his life, and demanding privacy while he searched for his missing spouse. You could have lost everything, I whispered. I did lose everything. You were gone. His voice broke. The company means nothing without you. The empire, the power, the money, it's all worthless if I can't share it with you. The baby is the greatest gift you could have given me. Even if you'd never told me, even if I'd never found you, you carrying my child is... He couldn't finish, emotion choking him. Fresh tears streamed down my face. I thought you didn't want us. I want you so desperately it terrifies me. Both of you. His hand finally touched my belly again, reverent. I've spent 3 months going insane, searching every corner of Korea. Dalnim finally broke last week. She said you were suffering, that you needed me, that our child deserved to know their father. She betrayed my confidence. She saved our family. The baby kicked against his palm, and Taehyuk's expression transformed into wonder. They're strong. Twins, I whispered. We're having twins. The sound he made was inhuman. Then his lips were on mine, desperate and pleading and full of 3 months of separation. I kissed him back just as frantically, tasting salt from both our tears. Come home, he begged against my mouth. Please, Siwoo. Come home. Let me do this right. Let me show Soul that you're mine, that our children are precious, that I'm not ashamed, I'm proud. Taehyuk. Marry me again. Publicly. Let me put my ring back on your finger where it belongs. I pulled back to look at him, this powerful, terrifying man on his knees before me, begging. No more secrets? Never again. I swear it. And the twins will be celebrated. Spoiled. Loved beyond measure. He kissed my stomach gently. I promise. I took his face in my hands. Then take us home.